we've got to recognize that cytokines activate circuits regulating anxiety, arousal, alarm, and fear, which includes the amygdala. So the amygdala here, the anterior cingulate cortex, and the insula that's here. This is known as the salience network. Salience is what we call the mesolimbic hierarchy. So you can see inflammation triggers the mesolimbic pathway. And therefore, you can have the range of symptoms of racing thoughts, sleep dysfunction, hyperarousal, all the way up to agitation. The first important point. And we know how we can target the amygdala. That's an important point for us to recognize. So that's what mediates fear and anxiety. Next, note these cytokines can reduce the availability of serotonin. Why is that important? Reduced serotonin means that the amygdala may be hypersensitive, a hyperreactive amygdala, because the amygdala has neurons from the dorsal raphe nucleus, where serotonin neurons are, with synapse. And that's the reason why we prescribe SSRIs in anxiety, right? But we also know that low-dose SSRIs are helpful in reducing amygdala activation. So escitalopram 10 milligrams or citalopram 10 to 20 milligrams. But if we increase the dose further up, they feed into a prominent side effect. They actually blunt dopaminergic pathways. They blunt the reward pathway. And importantly, when they blunt the frontostriatal pathway, brain fog can worsen. And you'll notice peculiarly in this group, many patients will tell you that SSRIs have done something really strange to them, or they've really felt like a zombie, out of proportion to what you would normally expect with patients, even at milder doses. And note, we said a similar thing in patients with ADHD as well, where we have executive dysfunction, dopamine dysregulation as a core factor. Very similar here, except that the dopamine dysfunction here is due to inflammation. So SSRIs can work on that dorsal raphe nucleus, the DRN synapse, onto the amygdala. The next important point, you can see here, so kynurenine increases. You can see many cytokines activate the enzyme IDO, which breaks down tryptophan, the primary precursor for serotonin, into kynurenine. Now, activated microglia convert kynurenine into quinolinic acid, the QUIN, which binds to NMDA receptors. This stimulates glutamate release, blocks glutamate reuptake, leads to excitotoxicity. So point here is that NMDA excessive activation can be present due to inflammation. Now note why this is important. You may notice in patients with fibromyalgia, many of them may be prescribed ketamine, either sublingual or sometimes in severe cases may actually go through an infusion. Note what's happening here. One, they've already got, some of them, a profile of excitotoxicity, one, and two, they've got increased arousal. Some of these patients can worsen significantly. The side effects of dissociation, the side effects of hyperarousal, and in some cases, even a kind of hypomanic, agitated state can occur. And that's because you've got a double whammy of excitotoxicity because of inflammation triggering off quinolinic acid, along with pre-existing hyperarousal. So that's an important point to take into account. And you can see how this links clinically. So therefore, the converse is, do we have agents that reduce NMDA excitotoxicity? Absolutely. This is where we look at anticonvulsants. So note what we've just done with this slide. We've looked at how we can calm down that amygdala, but at a certain dose only. We can use the serotonergic pathway to reduce amygdala activation, one. But we can't go too high because it will reduce frontostriatal dopamine, worsening brain fog, two. Then we know that NMDA plays an important part, glutamate excitotoxicity. We don't want too much, so I can use agents that reduce some of that. Now, ketamine is an NMDA antagonist, but the issue with ketamine is that the NMDA can move up or down. It's not a great modulator. So that's one of the differences between ketamine and memantine. And you might have noticed in clinical practice that for some ketamine can work, but in the context of hyperarousal, they can worsen.